if you can double your dopamine levels, you're going to be so much farther ahead than everybody else, as I feel like most people's dopamine systems are kind of cooked nowadays. But don't worry, I got you. So we're going to talk about the ways to double your dopamine following these 6 simple steps in 9 minutes. Obviously, lifestyle is important. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's not. You should sleep well, you should eat well, you should be well, you should socialize well. You should do all those cornerstone habits regardless anyways, but I feel like most people kind of know that. If you're trying to improve this problem, which is a dopamine deficiency in essence, you already kind of know that, and you probably tried to do that to some success or no success. So we're not going to dwell too much on that, but we are going to focus on the more specific steps that you can take. So a specific step is deprivation. Yeah, you heard me right. I think most people nowadays have just an influx of so many things that just slowly pick away at their dopamine levels, whether that's social media, whether that's television, whether that's fast food, where it slowly erodes your dopamine levels and it puts you into a lower dopamine baseline than when you originally started that task. So an easy thing to do is to just deprive yourself of these dopaminergic hits. And that is kind of the essence of dopamine detoxing, where you detoxify this in that you avoid it and then you feel better afterwards. And so some simple things that this could look like, one of them is just going for a walk without your phone, 15 minutes in nature. Another is just doing the same thing with driving. You could raw dog that stuff, have no influx of anything like that. Practice mindfulness. You could just have the permission and the mental perseverance to be bored for 10, 20, 30 minutes. Things like this will give you the biggest bang for your buck for the most part. Then there is testosterone and dopamine, where there's a very intimate connection between the two, in that they're both excitatories, meaning that they cause you to pursue things outside of yourself. They make effort feel good. And if you look at any supplement, any drug that increases testosterone, 9 times out of 10, they also increase dopamine, because there is such a powerful connection there. So a really easy low-hanging fruit for a lot of people is to just increase testosterone. You can do that through a bunch of different things. Obviously, you have lifestyle factors. Go to the gym, eat well, exercise well, go out, be social, get sunlight, all of that. You have specific factors where you can do hits, ice your balls, you can sun your balls. Um, you can take cold showers. There are supplements, herbs that you can take. Really easy stack is Surstanch, Tonga Ali, and Silly Sheets. And you can eat well. You can eat a pro testosterone diet. And so, what would that be? So, in essence, that would be just hitting those very dense food groups. So, something like eating oysters regularly, eating liver regularly, eating red meat regularly, eating eggs regularly, having cooked white button mushrooms, very much an animal based approach, eating your carbs, especially fruit, because that fuels your thyroid. It fuels T3 production, giving you a better metabolism. Now we're going to look at minerals and vitamins, where most people have deficiencies or subclinical deficiencies, especially if you feel like you are in a low dopamine state. So this is very much a low hanging fruit, and you can easily measure this with blood tests, except some typical deficiencies that people might have would be zinc, which acts as a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. It's very important for your hormonal health, so that connection with testosterone, as well as it's used as an adjunctive agent to increase the potency of ADHD medication, because it is so important for the dopamine system. Oysters are the best form in nature, in my opinion, but zinc glycinate is a good form as well. There is magnesium, which is very important for neuroprotection, acting as an NMDA antagonist. It's a very important mineral overall, and it can help protect dopamine neurons and encourage dopamine synthesis as well as ATP synthesis. Very important holistically for the entire body. There's also iodine, where most people will probably get the 150 micrograms of iodine, especially in the developed world. But I would argue that is a criminally low dose, as 1 milligrams typically is a good dose, as this helps support thyroid function, the T3. You're supporting your metabolism, which therefore supports the dopaminergic pathways. As if you look at thyroid hormones, they're super close to tyrosine, right? Tyrosine molecules. So it's very important for dopamine in that way. There's also other vitamins. D3, obviously vitamin D3 is one of the biggest health movers that you can do If you live in a country that doesn't get a lot of sun, ideal to supplement. So 5,000 to 10,000 IU independent units is usually pretty good. Take away the fat source. You can also get into the sun for 30 to 60 minutes daily, which can help top up those vitamin D3 levels. There's also vitamin C, which is very important for lowering cortisol, where human beings and guinea pigs are the only two animals in the mammal kingdom that don't synthesize our own vitamin C. So we have to get it externally. And vitamin C is super important for lowering our adrenaline. So very good for that. Cortisol, dopamine, antagonistic towards one another. So you lower cortisol, you increase dopamine. Vitamin C is also good for neuroprotection, for increasing dopamine synthesis, as well as increasing the synthesis from dopamine to norepinephrine by increasing beta hydroxylase. There's also the B vitamin. So whether you get a methylated or a non-methylated form, that really depends on your genetics and how you feel. But some common B vitamins that are very important for the dopamine system. There is B1, there is B6, B9, and B12. Forgive my writing. All of those are important. All of those are worthy to experiment with. A B complex is an easy, simple step towards this. And so now we're going to look at the real roadmap. And you might be wondering, like, what are you talking about? So this essentially is gene testing, where I am bullish on gene testing because it's such an easy fix that can give you so much information for literally the rest of your life. $50, $100 to test your genes, and then you can see, like, okay, what is the direction that I need to go? It's the difference between driving and kind of knowing the destination, but not really, but kind of having a sense, to driving and having a GPS in front of you telling you exactly where to go, because it is such a massive difference. Some common genes that you should test for if you're concerned about your dopamine system. There is COMT, there is monoamine oxidase A and E, there is the VDR, there is the MTHFR genes, so your methylation pathways. VDR stands for vitamin D receptors, because obviously vitamin D is very important for your dopamine system overall. Then we want to focus on the upregulation of dopamine. So this is where you can have your cake and you can eat it too. And then you can look to increase our synthesis. So an easy way to do this is with bromatine. So this is an atypical Russian drug that increases the dopamine synthesis of tyrosine hydroxylase and dopamine carbylase, therefore upregulating our endogenous synthesis, but also other things such as Alcar. So Alcar is unique in the fact that it can help upregulate the dopamine D1 receptors, which are preferentially located in the prefrontal cortex, so more so for that executive function. There is uridine monophosphate at 250 milligrams. This can help upregulate the dopamine D2 receptors, which are preferentially located within the striatum, so the limbic system, so more so for that goal-directed behavior. Then there's also CANA, which might seem like a weird recommendation, where CANA can help upregulate VMAT2. So vesicle monoamine transporter 2, which essentially packages up the neurotransmitters, the monoamines, transports them to synaptic vesicles so that they can be released later and exhibit that physiological effect. So those are all good options. And so you could take those in a stack or independently and start to experiment with those. And then finally, we're going to move to the dopamine nootropics. So this is the creme de la creme. So what are the safe, sustainable, effective nootropics that you can take to acutely increase your dopamine performance, your levels, whatever it may be, but not going to completely crush everything that you have? So an easy one is nicotine, right? If you heard me, you might be cringing in your chair, being like, hey, what is he talking about? But nicotine is very pro-cognitive and it's very neuroprotective. And for the most part, it's very much a sustainable mechanism. Sure, some tolerance does develop, but some tolerance. Obviously, smoking is bad. Gum is not, in my opinion. Smoking has like 40, 50 other chemicals in it that A, make it more potent, B, make it more addictive, or C, make it more shelf. Paracetam with an extra phenyl. Ignore that spelling. And so this is an ulcerated form of paracetam. So it can cross the blood-brain barrier. It can increase dopamine by being a dopamine reuptake inhibitor and a norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. It is routinely prescribed in Russia for treating all types of different cognitive disorders or dysfunctions. It is very safe. It can actually end up upregulating the dopamine receptors with continuous use. The D1, the D2 receptors, for example. There's also modafinil, which is what the Limitless movie was based on. So this is essentially a strong wakefulness agent, essentially projecting from the hypothalamus, stimulating histaminergic activity, and therefore increasing dopamine levels weekly. It's not super strong for dopamine, but it's more so giving you that sense of wakefulness. This is a very safe drug, and this is a very cognitive enhancing drug. This is what people commonly report to replace their Adderall, where it's modafinil or it's phenylparacetam or it's a combination of both. And so it can be very good. It is very sustainable as well, where there's a lot of people reporting no tolerance developing 5 years after use, 10 years after use, 15 years after use, which is unheard of in the pharmacology world. So it is very good in that way. And yeah, obviously this is kind of a lot, so you don't have to do all of this stuff, but a good little starting point. If you want to know more about how to increase dopamine sustainably for the long term, where you don't have to have it worse in the future to have it better today, check out this video I did on Canna and how it upregulated my dopamine and how that wasn't a good thing, but it was very effective for doing it at the same time.